All right. Hi, Miguel. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Miguel. I'm 20 years old. I'm from Portugal. I've been living in Korea for 9 months now. I'm on a working holiday visa, so I pretty much came here for 1 year. I wanted to experience a new country, I wanted to experience new things, and Korea kind of popped up very randomly. I think Korean people don't know this, but in Portugal, not many people know about Korea. Japanese culture is very popular, but even Asian culture overall is not very famous and not very well known in Portugal. So when I first heard about Korea, I knew nothing about the country, but I used to live in Thailand and my boss was Korean when I was working at a school. And so I learned a little bit through him. And then, yeah, even though I met 1 or 2 Korean people before, and in Portugal right now there's a few Korean people too, I didn't know much about the country. So when I came here, I didn't know anything at all. And it has been very interesting to get to know the country and get to know the Korean culture.
All right. And then I heard that you recently had an interview with CNN regarding on December 3rd martial law in South Korea. What kind of conversation did you have?
So recently, as you mentioned, I talked with CNN Portugal about this martial law thing because there's not many Portuguese people living in Korea. So they emailed me because I do some videos for TikTok and Instagram, and they found out my page and they found out about a Portuguese guy living in Korea. And we got in touch, and so the interview was very interesting. I think we discussed like martial law from a foreigner's perspective and from a Portuguese person perspective. I emphasized that although martial law sounds very dangerous and very scary, even as a foreigner living in Korea, although it's not my country, I still feel threatened in a way when I first heard about it. But it's really interesting because daily life has been so calm. I feel like if I didn't hear about it on media, I wouldn't have noticed that something happened just by walking on the street. If I didn't go to like close to the National Assembly, I don't feel like I would have really noticed about it. So I told this to CNN that it's a really big contrast because there's this really huge political thing happening, the martial law, but the daily life seems so calm and normal. During this talk, I highlighted that the protests in Korea, although it was all very quick to happen and Korean people were really standing up for the country, they were very peaceful. I don't know how this would go in Europe. I feel like if something like this happened, there would be protests for sure, but I don't feel like they would happen this quickly, and I don't feel like they would be this peaceful as they were in Korea. We can take as an example the protests that happened in France, which are chaotic, and you see cars on fire, buildings on fire. So that was also interesting from a European and from a Portuguese perspective. Also, what was interesting for me is this resilience of the Korean people, that even if the first impeachment attempt doesn't work, they still try to impeach the president multiple times and they're not giving up. And since, as I said, Korea is not very famous in Portugal, for me it was also important to give some context for some people that didn't know much about the situation and didn't know much about Korean culture in general. And there were many people that were concerned about this and that were very misinformed.
As a foreigner, I'm curious about your thoughts on the current situation in Korea.
So yeah, I've been following up pretty closely this whole martial law thing and this political situation. It feels very unique to see this and to live through all of this. I feel like in my time here, and I think in the past couple of years, this is the most that I've seen Korean people for my time here and for the last couple of years. This level of unrest seems like very new, seems like probably the biggest that has been. I say this because I've never seen like that many Korean friends of mine worried about something for my whole time here, for my whole stay. Even Korean friends abroad that were living in other countries, I got calls from them and messages. So you can definitely see this is a big thing and this has impacted people's lives. And although you can't see it that well in the normal life, it's really big and you shouldn't disregard this.
As far as I know, there is considerable anxiety overseas about the current situation in Korea, with many questioning whether a war is imminent. Mr. Miguel, what is your impression based on your first-hand experience in Korea? Do you truly believe the situation is dangerous?
So right off the bat, I feel like the international headlines don't really represent that well the level of threat that we've been feeling in Korea and the level of threat of this whole situation. It really doesn't feel as dangerous as people are making it out to be. So martial law, it sounds very scary and like a very big thing, and it is, but protests and these sort of stuff kind of happens sometimes in a broader political process, and I wouldn't say it's like an immediate safety threat. I think it's something that could happen, protests, and of course this martial law thing is kind of crazy in a way, but I feel that even in Portugal, the headlines were making it seem like more of a dangerous situation. So I remember that day I went to sleep, and when I woke up it was kind of weird because I had many messages from friends and family like, are you okay? And are you safe? Don't leave your home. And I didn't feel like, it got me questioning like, what are people telling about this whole situation? In my time here and seeing this all happen, I could feel a little bit how resilient and pragmatic South Koreans are. You can see that if they feel that something is not right, they will fight for it, and they will be quick. It was Tuesday, right? So it was Tuesday night when it was announced, and it was super late at night, like midnight or something. And almost immediately people went out to the street. I was coming back home from work and I could see immediately there were many more people on the streets than normal. So it's very impressive how people just gave up on their other things, and probably many of these people had to go to work in the morning, but it didn't feel like, but I felt like they had other priorities. They wanted to fight for their country. And even my friends from abroad said, if I was in Korea, the first thing I would do right now was go out on the streets and protest for this. This also shows a little bit of like the community feeling that you can feel when you come to Korea and when you have Korean friends. It's a very strong feeling that there is a very strong sense of collective action, and that everyone feels a little bit responsible for it in a way that I haven't seen before. I feel like in Portugal, if this happened and the president did this, we would criticize the president, but we wouldn't feel as responsible for this. While here, people feel a little bit responsible for it. Even though they did nothing, they just elected this president, they feel like it's their responsibility to impeach him. So that's very impressive. And my personal opinion is, and what I've experienced is that I feel very, very safe living here. It's a very safe country. Even through this whole situation, there wasn't really a point where you felt unsafe, where you felt like, if I leave my house, it's dangerous. I also feel optimistic about how Korea and how Koreans can navigate through these situations. It was very impressive to see.
Are you aware of the current situation in South Korea, including martial law and the presidential impeachment protests? Has the Portugal media covered martial law in South Korea? How is it perceived in Portugal?
So in Portugal, the coverage is very limited. Of course, this is a very big thing that made international headlines, so the Portuguese media also got on it. But the coverage that I've seen was very, very small in a way. So overall, you could see that Portugal still sees Korea as a very strong democracy. So I feel like this was a surprise to many people, because for us Portuguese, even though we don't know a lot about Korea, we see Korea as this first world country and very developed, and where there's a lot of technology and things. So for us, Korea is this really strong democracy. So something like this happening felt really weird and really surprising. So of course it got a lot of attention, but not, I felt like the media wanted to exaggerate some points a little bit, because you know how media are, and it didn't get maybe as much coverage as it should have gotten, but it makes sense since in Portugal, Korea overall is not very connected to our country, so it doesn't feel very relevant to many people.
Are your family members or friends in Portugal not worried?
When my family and friends heard about this, they were instantly worried. I got many calls and many text messages from friends, and I reassured them that it might seem very, very dangerous and very surprising, but life here is very normal. So when we talked, I reassured them that although it might seem very dangerous and surprising, daily life here just feels very normal and kind of like nothing happened. I wonder if this is also part because of the government, because they're really trying hard for daily life to seem normal, as if nothing happened. But it truly has been what I felt. So I told them this, and of course it's important to communicate, because if they just see the very big dangerous headlines on the news and I don't reply, then they think, okay, maybe a war is happening or something. So I was talking and I was replying to all of my friends and family, and they also notice, okay, maybe it's not as dangerous as it seems.
I'm curious to know what dreams you hold for the future in Korea.
I would love to build more of like a cultural bridge between Portugal and Korea. I know Portugal is right now a very touristy and a very popular touristy destination for Koreans, but Korea is really not that big in Portugal, and for me it would be really cool to kind of like get these two cultures connected through storytelling and through videos on social media, which I'm trying to do, and just maybe events or something like that. I want to show to Portuguese people a real Korea, and I want to spark more interest in different cultures, because sometimes I get the feeling that Portugal as a country is a very closed society. So I feel like opening the doors and opening our minds to other cultures and other people would feel really good for me personally. I hope I can do something about it. I want to stay in Korea a few more months, and then I'm probably gonna move on, but it has been an honor to be here and it has been really good. So I hope I can, and I think I'm doing a little bit of that, but yeah, I hope I can connect these two cultures.
So what did you want to say to who wants to come to Korea?
I think if you want to come to Korea and you feel like it could be something for you, you should definitely come. And don't let other people tell you that it's a bad decision or a bad idea wherever you are in life. It's not going to be easy. I feel like especially if you're coming here to try and work, whatever it is you want to work at, it's not going to be easy to adapt, because the Korean working culture could be a little scary for people coming from like Europe or America. But anyway, I've made really, really good memories in this country. So if you ever have the feeling that, oh, I think it could be something for me, or like Korea seems so fun, or it seems like a country with a lot of opportunities, I think it is. I think you can definitely have many opportunities in this country that you couldn't have somewhere else. So don't let things scare you off, and there's always going to be people saying that they had bad experiences, but your own experience is what matters. So at the end of the day, your time is what you make of it. So when you come here, you're the only one responsible for your own experience, and you never know if things are going to go well or bad, but at the end of the day, you tried, and I feel like, and I'm pretty sure that if you actually come here, you'll make really good memories and you'll meet really good people.